Jeff, Laura, hey, congratulations for We Broke Up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
One of the things I always tell people is these type of stories, I don't know what genre it actually fits in because it's almost like an anti-romance story in its own way. What do you guys consider this film as?
I I think you're pretty on point there. I think it's kind of like an anti-rom-com about a breakup. And it's always interesting. Both of us come from theater backgrounds initially. We've known each other since middle school. We used to direct each other's plays in high school. And so for us it starts usually with character and relationship. And then after the fact, we're like, oh yeah, this will eventually be like marketed. And so we need to sort of figure out what they'll box it into. But yeah, I think anti-rom-com's a correct assessment.
Yeah.
So where did the original idea came from for We Broke Up?
I'd sort of had the image of a couple sitting in a car having, that shot at the beginning with the two of them sitting in the car and then the words "we broke up." And so after that, I went home and opened Final Draft and started trying to write something. And I was like, I don't know that I'll write the best version of this movie. And so my good friend Laura, who's at the time a fantastically talented playwright, was in town for her first like staff television writing jobs. And so we were going out to dinner anyway. And so I said to her, hey, do you want to write a movie with me? And she said, okay. I was like, do you want me to tell you what it's about? And she's like, I don't care. And so that was the beginning. And then we started writing a movie together.
Laura, you have something to add on how you wanted to help him craft a story like this, maybe drawing from experiences?
Yeah, I think Jeff was very forthcoming about the fact that he was like, when I was in Doug's head, when I was writing scenes with just Doug, I knew exactly what to say. And then all of a sudden, when I was in scenes with just Lori, it was a bit of a blank. And so we loved this idea, which was, okay, well, that's so great. Then, Laura will be bolstering the female character, Jeff will be bolstering the male character, and it'll be this very even-handed story. Of course, that's not really how you write something. That's you both have to speak for both of the characters and have thoughts for both of the characters. But what was great was it actually felt like such a personal story because when we met up for dinner all those years ago, we were both in long-term relationships. Jeff and his now wife, they were heading towards getting married. Now they have two kids. My boyfriend and I have been together for 15 years and we're very happily unmarried. And so in a way, Jeff sort of represented Doug's perspective in the movie and I represented Laurie's perspective. And so it was great to have that lived experience to imbue inside this fictional story.
That's amazing. So both of neither of you actually went through a breakup and you wrote a breakup story.
Correct.
So tell us about balancing the comedy and seriousness carefully through like anti rom-com like this. I mean, how did you folks pull it off?
I think initially we really tried to focus only on character and relationship. And I think as we went through the rewrite process, as we thankfully were able to actually get together, because initially Laura was in Chicago and I was in LA when we wrote the script. So by the time we were actually realized the movie was happening and we were like, we should probably work on the script because we hadn't looked at it in a few years. We started with character and relationship, but then we'd be like, okay, this scene, we should think about ways we could make this funnier. And so we would pitch lines to each other in that. Or if we felt like we maybe we never felt the need, I don't think, to like shoehorn jokes or something. Be like, if there are a few scenes in the movie that are pretty dramatic and we never felt like, oh, we have to force a joke into the scene. I think what we would do instead would be like, we should have a comic beat after this scene or before this scene, or try not to linger too long in like a maudlin end of relationship space if we could build other things around it while still staying honest to the scene. Because obviously we've all seen in romantic comedies where if the movie gets really serious for a beat, suddenly at the end they'll do a pratfall just to mix it up because they're like, this movie got too serious. Make sure somebody falls. That'll help. So
I think you're trying to balance it all the way through and even into post, right? Where there were some more comedic set pieces that we ended up actually pulling out, or even on set, right? Because you're shooting it all out of order. Sometimes you'll want to make a moment more funny, but you kind of have to keep in the back of your mind, let's get a very straight take on this as well. Let's make sure that we're not pulling things out of shape too much in search of the joke. So it's a constant balancing act, I think, at the writing stage, at the production stage, and then in the editing stage. So yeah, it is, we're sort of riding these two different tones. We're riding like the extreme comedic with something very grounded and relationship based, and at times quite heavy. And yeah, we're very pleased with what we came up with.
I don't know. Having a wedding at a campground seems kind of crazy to me too. So I think that was kind of funny. Who came up with that idea?
well, we initially had written it for a resort. And so I've had a few friends who have actually gotten married at like summer camp type settings, like destination things. And I was working on the television show Veep, and we were shooting at Calamigos. And the way assistant directors work, I was alternating episodes. So it was an episode that wasn't mine. And I just kept showing up when they were shooting and just wandering the grounds of this place, Calamigos, because I was like, this would be a perfect place to set our wedding. And as I'm wandering the grounds of the place, I'm realizing in the summer it's this beautiful, expensive resort in Malibu, where like, you know, famous people get married at this place. It's waterfalls everywhere. During the summer, they have a children's summer camp. So it was sort of like, and then also they have these cabins that I think were initially built for Wet Hot American Summer. They have these cabins in the back of the place. So this is just a location that has anything you could possibly want. So I talked to the location manager on Veep and the rep at Calamigos. And so Laura and I went out to the location and just started wandering together. And we're like, oh, and there's a carousel, and there's a pond with paddle boats, and there's a Ferris wheel. There's anything you could possibly want. And so we did a draft of the script adjusting it to the unique location we had.
Wow, that is pretty terrific. Could you talk a little bit about the cast? With Aya Cash and William, and why they so perfect? Because I know Ms. Cash is very hilarious, and I think you had to temper her down a little bit for a film like this.
Well, the wild thing about Aya is that I actually knew her primarily from her days as an off-Broadway theater powerhouse. And Aya was sort of known for both being very funny on stage, but also acted in some of the weirdest plays and some of the most human plays. And she was like the person you wanted to cast. You know, then she transitioned into television and she led You're the Worst for, I think, the 6 seasons that they did. And everybody started to get clued into, my God, not only can she sell a physical joke and tell a joke like gangbusters, but in the season, for instance, that her character is struggling with depression, you're also just so desperately empathetic for her and what she's going through, that she's capable of sort of taking these extreme human emotions, putting everything on her face, and then also making it hilariously funny. So I think she was really excited to, you know, get the chance to play this sort of breakup comedy, something a little sour, something a little sweet, opposite Will, who of course, like everyone fell in love with on The Good Place. And, you know, they hadn't had a chemistry reading together. Their first time actually meeting was our first day of shooting. And they're just stunning on screen together.
Excellent. Well, let me wrap it up with one more question for the both of you, because obviously the past 12 to 13 months, the world has gone crazy. But how are you staying sane and creative during this entire time?
I mean, for me, this is kind of, it's been a bizarre one because we finished shooting 2 weeks before the stay-at-home orders in California, and we figured out a way to do remote editing. And so I jumped straight into that. So oddly, this pandemic has been a very creative time for me. It's been a pivot. It's been we've had to discover new ways to create film and handle the post-production responsibilities. But I mean, for me, it's just been about as life has always been, you sort of take what's presented with you and adjust, and you try to figure out the best way to go about moving forward.
What about for you, Laura?
I think, yeah, I think, you know, the word that often comes to mind is gratitude. This year has been so difficult for so many people. And I have felt so fortunate that, you know, even while we were in production on the movie, I was writing for a Netflix series, One Piece, that switched over to a Zoom room. Then later in the fall, you know, as we were finishing the movie and finishing post and starting to talk about selling it, I started writing for Joe Exotic, so the Peacock show based on Tiger King. And I've been able to sort of continue doing work projects. So I've been able to stay employed while also working on another script for me and Jeff to hopefully do together, another script just for myself, a TV pilot, you know, all of these things. So I think in a way, being trapped at home, I think the work has been a great distraction for me, so that even if everything is falling around, you know, all around me, I can sort of return to this creative fountain. And again, just feel so lucky that we were able to wrap days before the world changed and still finish our movie and still get it out there in the world. And now that we're coming out on the other side, the fact that the movie is going to be in 35 theaters for a week, and then it's going to be so accessible via VOD, very grateful, very grateful.
Excellent. Well, Laura, Jeff, hey, thank you for this conversation. Thank you for making you know, this anti-rom-com We Broke Up, and I can't wait till the sequel, like We Get Back Together or something.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye now.
Take care.